All right, so for our process today, we're going to kind of focus on this idea of making special. So, in the past few weeks in our art journaling series, we've done a few different things that have really kind of focused on these small things that make something special. A couple weeks ago, we talked about this beautiful Japanese tradition of sashiko, which is all about this beautiful mending. It's taking worn out clothes and taking time to do this really intricate and beautiful designs on top to mend it, make it stronger. And often those bits of embroidery, memory, or mending have different symbols that signify blessings or protection. So it's taking this very basic craft of mending and it's making whatever it's on special, even more special, right? We talked last week about flowers, a little bit about some different flowers or plants that we keep around us that have different associations or memories, surrounding ourselves with those little moments of special, right, and meaning. And today we want to kind of continue that idea of making special these little things that hold meaning by focusing on a visual recipe. Now, I know when I say recipe, our mind immediately goes to food, and that's good. It totally can. But I want to invite us today to think about a recipe that holds meaning. Now, a recipe can be food. I'm thinking maybe there's a special pancake recipe that you make for a grandkid that holds a lot of meaning for you because that time is special. And so that recipe would be things like flour and eggs and water, oil and a bowl and a spoon and a griddle, thinking about all those ingredients that help make that recipe special. But a recipe can also be something metaphorical, right? It could be taking a look at this moment or memory, this event, and thinking about what the ingredients of that event are that make that special. So I was this morning, just as a little tangent, this morning I was feeding my sourdough, and my sourdough starter is in a giant mason jar. And when I had it out this morning, I was thinking how like special this sourdough starter is. It's something that my mom has been using the same starter for years. She constantly feeds it and shares it, and that's where my starter came from. And I keep it in this like insignificant little mason jar, well, big mason jar. But it got me thinking about all these wonderful like moments and memories that we could store in little mason jars. So that's kind of where my brain went this morning. And so I started thinking about special moments that hold meaning for me. Um, and so the thing that came to my mind, the thing that I was really kind of spending time thinking on was a special moment. That's something that I did a lot growing up, often growing up, and it's some like a special treasure or memory that I hold. And it's the end of summer bonfire. And so I started thinking about the little ingredients that make that special for me, those associations and those memories centered around that yearly event. And so that's kind of what I'm going to be looking at today with our memory or recipe, visual recipe. But what I want to invite you to do is either think like me, think about an event or a memory, or think about a specific recipe that you want to pull from today. And I want to invite us to kind of just think on that to start. I'm going to talk about supplies in just a moment, but I want to give us a moment together to just kind of think about a visual recipe. What do you want to spend time thinking on today? Whether it's a recipe that holds meaning, something that a loved one makes, something that you make for a loved one, um, or maybe there's something a little more um, eventful, I guess, an event actually that holds meaning, something that a memory that you want to kind of capture in a bottle and kind of look back on, something that can hold meaning for you, a moment that's made special, right? So let's just take a moment to kind of think about that. Now, think about what it is you want to focus on today, and then we're going to kind of walk through our process in just a moment. But once you have that recipe that you want to focus on, kind of hold that in your mind. I want to start off talking about supplies before we jump in. So, of course, first we have our journal. If you have a journal that you've been working on, go ahead and pull that out. If you don't have a journal, you can work on a separate sheet of paper. That's perfect. Because I'm going to bring color in, I'm going to work on a piece of paper and then glue it into my journal later. So I'm going to pull my paper out here. So the next thing we need is going to be a pen or pencil, something we can write with. And then, of course, color. Now, I'm using colored pencils, but feel free to use paint, use pastels, pens, markers, paint pens, and feel free to bring in other supplies too. Sometimes a visual recipe isn't stuff we draw, it's things we cut out of magazines. So feel free to bring in some collage material too. So our basic supplies for today are going to be our paper or journal to work off of, a pen or pencil, and then our color or collage material. Now to start off, I want to invite us to sit down with our journal or piece of paper, and I'm just going to kind of come over here to my clean page here. And I want to invite us to go ahead and write down what that recipe is that we're going to kind of focus on today. So I'm going to do my visual recipe here, and I'm going to do mine that I'm going to focus on is that end of summer bonfire. Now, feel free to follow along with me and do what I'm doing or use this as inspiration and go in a completely different direction. That's good too. However you take this time is good. So I'm just going to put end of summer bonfire. So I want to invite us in this moment, we're going to do a little writing before we start making it, doing the visual part of it, right? That creative response. So when we think about a recipe, there's basically two parts to a recipe. There's one where those ingredients are listed out. And then that second part kind of talks about the steps to go through to make it happen. So I want to invite us to start off with that ingredient list, thinking about the different parts, supplies, things that we need to make this recipe. So I'm going to start off by thinking about, since I'm doing an event, I'm going to think about a clear night, a sprinkling of stars, an open field. I'm just going to kind of continue adding those different things that help make the ingredients to make this special moment. So let's go ahead and take a moment to start writing some of those down. Just your ingredient list, whether you're doing your little recipe of a food or a recipe of an event or a moment. Let's take a moment to kind of write those down. It doesn't have to be complete this massive list. You can pull out just kind of the important parts, the most needed parts. Let's just go ahead and kind of write down our ingredient list here. It doesn't have to be an extensive list. Let's just kind of take a moment to put down all those little parts that make this recipe successful. Again, it can be an actual recipe of a food or drink that you like making, or a recipe for a special moment. Once you get those ingredients, I invite us to kind of think through what are those steps to kind of setting up this this recipe? What do you start with? What's that first thing? Let's take a moment to kind of write those out. And again, it doesn't have to be a perfect sentence, a super in-depth paragraph. Well, let's go ahead and kind of write those, just kind of write that down. We're going to use that in our making today. You can see my handwriting is kind of sloppy and all over the place. Know that yours doesn't have to be perfect. We're just kind of writing this down, getting prepped for our making time, our creative response. And it can be just really um, basic prompts. It can be something that is um, kind of in sentences or bullet points. This is just kind of writing down those ingredients that make this recipe, that help make this recipe, and then writing on some of the steps um, on making this recipe. Now you're done kind of writing that out, putting down those different ingredients, and then the step-by-step, sort of step-by-step-ish process. I want to invite us to come over to either clean page in our journal or a separate piece of paper. And let's start kind of visualizing this, batting our visuals. Now, you can do that by rewriting this or using magazine pages to cut out some different color, shapes, patterns, images that help illustrate this, or by doing a little drawing of it. Because I've been thinking about the mason jar, I'm actually going to draw mine in a mason jar as if I'm like bottling this special recipe. But feel free to make this however feels right to you. But let's go ahead and start kind of either drawing out or cutting and collaging to make this recipe come to life. Again, whether it's something that is an actual recipe of like a food or a meal or just an event, um, a moment in time, let's go ahead and take a moment to start kind of drawing or creating that. So I'm going to start off. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just kind of creating a visual for this like food or event, this special moment. just kind of taking my time thinking about my ingredient list here and kind of adding that to my visual recipe. Your recipe can look like one image that you're drawing. It can be a collage of things. It can be just little images that kind of help tell the story of your recipe here. It doesn't have to be um, this perfect finished piece. It's not about making this exact, like perfect images or anything like that. It's about kind of telling the story, taking something that is special, um, has a special memory or association to it. Just kind of taking our time, just kind of living in that memory as we're making it into this visual. By spending time on it, anything we spend time on, it's taking some of our attention. It's becoming important. And this, by spending time on that and letting it kind of sit in our mind, we're showing that this is something that holds meaning for us. This is something that is special. I'm just kind of going through with mine, just doing little drawings. And again, you can see that my drawing is not super perfect or straight lines or anything like that. But it's just kind of thinking about those ingredients and kind of adding it together to kind of bottle, shall we say, bottle this special moment, this recipe. And just kind of spending time living in that recipe, living in that moment. It's not about making this perfect finished piece. It's really about just kind of spending time sitting in um, that memory, hanging on to that thing that makes it special. Is it that you have certain, what are those certain ingredients, those things that make this special moment happen? Is it a special person, a special food, a special plate that's used? So I'm just kind of turning this into a little visual today. And just kind of spending time thinking about what makes this special. What are those ingredients? What makes that a special um, memory or association? And just kind of spending time, kind of translating our words into that visual. Again, if it's something that um, is drawn or cut out, um, either way, it's good. But just kind of, I want to invite us to really think um, about these visuals, this whatever it is that you are focusing your energy on, thinking about the ingredients of what makes it special. And again, it's not making these perfect finished pieces. It's about just kind of living in that moment, that memory. And sometimes it's hard to, um, we don't always think about these memories, these moments, but it's good to kind of dwell on them. Spend time living in that memory for a while, being reminded of those good things, especially when it feels like life happens and sometimes things go unexpectedly, or maybe we're having a rough day or something like that. There's something that's nice about just kind of recalling these really nice moments and living in that moment for a while, that memory for a while. It's just what I want to invite us to do today. It doesn't have to look a certain way. However you do it is good. That kind of building this visual, making this memory or recipe kind of come to life, a visual reminder. Just kind of have some fun bringing that recipe to life. I know that however you do that is good and right. There's no wrong way to do that. Mm. Your visual recipe doesn't have to look like mine. It doesn't have to look like anyone else's. It's just a time for us to think about um, making special, spending some time thinking about those things that are important to us that maybe we don't spend time on. Maybe there's, um, maybe like me, you have a recipe that's been passed down that you still make, or a recipe that you maybe make that you're passing down. Those moments are special, and they're such a great way to connect with our history, right? Sharing those recipes that have meaning. Maybe it's an event, maybe it's a one off event, maybe it's not like a repeating event, but maybe it's a one off event. Let's just take a moment and just kind of make those recipes come to life, taking those ingredients, maybe making it a little more um, visual. Right? I really do want to invite just kind of spending time in that memory, spending time just thinking about what makes it special. And live in that moment for just a little bit. And again, it doesn't have to look like anyone else's. What you do can be completely different. And it's just kind of a time to really think about what makes those specials, those moments special. Kind of draw out, cut out, glue down. However you want to respond to it is good. This is about just kind of translating that recipe that we wrote down, just kind of making it visual. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. I do want to invite just kind of dwelling in that moment for a while. If you find your mind wandering a little bit while you're working, that's okay. I know it's natural for us to kind of go into different directions or mind to think about other things, but I do want to invite, if your mind is wandering and if you're thinking about to-do lists or other things that need to happen, a shopping list or whatever, I do want to invite us to just kind of gently refocus our thoughts back on this moment, right? On what makes it special and creating this little memory. Again, it doesn't have to look like anyone else's. It's not about making something that other people would even understand. This is a moment just for us to kind of make that recipe, whatever it is that we're working on, make it kind of elevate that, make it special, a little memory in a jar, so to speak. And just spend some time with it, thinking about what does make it special. What are those things? Um, and then just kind of spending a little time drawing it out. Again, it doesn't have to be anything that's perfect, perfectly done. take your time with this today. Sitting in that memory. And really just thinking about what makes it special, right? With my piece, I'm just kind of thinking about those different ingredients that would make this really special, that would make this the perfect the event, let's say. But it can also be, I'm putting everything in this little mason jar because that's what's been in my head today. But whatever feels right to you is good. Maybe it's adding just images of those different ingredients to your recipe. Maybe it's really focusing on what that finished piece looks like, whether it's the event that has all the right pieces coming together, or that food that finished, that's done cooking and ready to be served. However you want to express that recipe is good. And I know sometimes doing a visual may be hard. For some of us, maybe it's easier for you to write down and do kind of a poem or a stream of consciousness around that perfect recipe, or that special recipe. Perfect. It really is just kind of thinking about what is it that makes it special? Is it the actual ingredients? Is it who you get to experience it with? Who it's for? Is it the location? What is it that makes that special? Going to kind of work on my piece, and I want to invite you to keep doing that for yours as well. Just kind of making that visual. And again, that visual doesn't have to be a picture of something. It can be a drawn picture of something. It can be a collage. It can be a photo. If you have a photo that you want to add. And even, it doesn't have to be visual. It can be something that's just written down. Again, that main focus for us today is just kind of thinking about that, that idea of making special. What is it about that recipe that feels special? Um, is it who you're with, the special ingredients, the location? Just kind of spending time thinking on that. And however that shows itself, however you express that is good. It doesn't have to be set up like mine is. It can be any version. Whatever feels right to you is right. I'm just kind of using color on my piece here, kind of finishing that off. Mm. If you get to the end and you are finished with your piece, I want to invite you to kind of look back over um, what you've done, what you're working on. Just notice those little details. Live in that memory, that association. Live in that moment for just a little bit, and be reminded of the things you enjoy about it. It's good to have that kind of reflection, especially life getting so busy, or when we're having a rough day or not quite feeling ourselves, feeling like ourselves. Sometimes it's good to just kind of go back and be reminded of these special moments, these special memories, and just kind of let that encourage us, and just be a good reminder too.
Thanks so much for joining us in our creative space. Now, don't forget, like and subscribe so you can be notified about our future videos. And happy making, everyone.